Good evening. Call the meeting to order at 7 p.m. Inform the public that we are returning from an executive session and that this meeting is being recorded live by Raycam. Pledge of Allegiance. Ms. Riley, you want to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Acceptance of the minutes, Ms. Riley.
I will make a motion to accept the minutes with one amendment, that we also voted to accept the local food regulation bylaw.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those are approved. Thank you. Department heads, Chief Jones, your monthly report.
Good evening. They must be all here to listen to my report.
They are, Jim.
Activity report for the month of November. Fire incidents, fires, MVAs, investigations, and public assist were 87. Ambulance, medical emergencies, MVAs, public assist, 176. Miscellaneous inspections, fire alarm work, item of note, 89. Mutual aid, fire and ambulance mutual aid calls, 0 ambulance given, 1 ambulance received, 1 fire given, 1 fire received. Line of duty shifts, 1 man for 192 hours. Sick shifts, 3 men for 304. Incidents, 11/30/2017, we're at 2,624 at the end of October. And, November. And 11/30/2018, we're at 2,749. Probably going to go past 3,000. Lieutenant Ray still out sick. Jeff is doing PT to strengthen his elbow. He has a doctor's note stating he will not be out indefinitely. Firefighter Peters is going to the gym in PT, which he is strengthening his back. Firefighter Panatti, Scott had a follow-up appointment on 12/10/18 with his orthopedic doctor. Scott can still not close his hand and his baby finger does not bend. He's going PT twice a week. They are working on that issue and will another follow-up on 1/16/19. Any questions?
Yes, Chief, I understand we had a house fire in town since your last report to us. Could you give us a little information?
Yes, I believe on Warren Street. It was due to an electrical outlet that overheated, and it melted the outlet and went on a rug and went up the wall, and guys made an awesome stop, and everybody got out safe, so.
That's the important thing. Anything people should take into consideration, obviously, with holiday decorations?
If you go on our website, there's a whole thing on it.
Wonderful.
Explains everything, what you should do and what you shouldn't do.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
And as always, thank you, Chief, for all of your efforts and your department's work, keeping us all safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. No other department heads. We have no appointments tonight. Citizens and community input. I'm imagining the majority of you are here for what we have in correspondence. So if you're here to speak on that, I would ask you to hold off. Is there anybody who wants to address the board on any other topic? No? Okay.
Mr. Pacheco,
Yes.
before we go any further, I meant to make a statement at the beginning that Mrs. Smith is not with us this evening, and I did receive a message that she is recuperating from surgery. She is doing well, but she's under doctor's orders to stay for bed rest for the week, so she hopes to be joining us next week.
Good. Well, we wish her well.
Mm-hmm.
No public hearings tonight. New business, Ms. Riley?
I have no new business.
Okay. Old business, Ms. Riley?
I have no old business.
Okay. Town Administrator's report, Mr. Flaherty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The ACO vehicle is just about finished with just some minor adjustments. Is that right, for the light bar? The town will be experiencing another bonding reevaluation, and the call will be December 19th. Hopefully we'll go up another level. Right now we're in the AAA rating group right now. We'd like to advance that a little more. I'll make sure the Board of Selectmen and the town know the results after that as soon as we get them. Excuse me. Just a reminder, committee and commission openings. Historical Commission needs 2 more members. Contact either Ms. Riley or the Selectmen's office for information on how to apply. Council on Aging needs 2 associate members, and the Raynham Food Basket, I think, is looking for another director, and the Cable Committee also needs a new member. And just get well soon, Mrs. Smith, wishing you a speedy recovery. And upcoming next Selectmen's meeting will be a week from tonight, December 18th at 7 p.m. Next Sursage meeting is January 8th in Mansfield, and the SMHG meeting is January 9th in Seekonk.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Flaherty?
No.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Flaherty. Selectmen's report, Miss Riley.
Again, just wishes for a speedy recovery for Mrs. Smith. Also, if we could have a report from our health agent at our next meeting regarding the odor detected near the former Raynham dog track on Route 138 in Broadway. I know there was expression of concerns about that, and I believe Mr. Tanis was looking into that. So if you could give us a report at the next meeting,
I'll pass
that would be
along.
great. Also, our Town of Raynham survey is available. Hopefully you've all filled that out, and all of your family members as well. It's available through the Town of Raynham website, and paper copies are available here at Town Hall, also at the Senior Center and the Raynham Public Library. All Raynham stakeholders are strongly encouraged to participate. We really want to know what you think. Do you think we need more police and fire fighters, more space in our schools? Do we need to be concerned about overdevelopment, traffic issues? And there's lots of spaces on there for you to just add anything else that you want to bring to our attention. We really want to know, so please fill those out. The deadline for that is December 19th, so that we can collate all of those responses and have that ready for our government study committee when they start meeting at the beginning of the year. Also, special town meeting is coming up. We have a date for that, I believe.
January 8th.
January 8th, so that's important to keep in mind. And I did attend the meeting last week of the Veteran Service Officers Association. It was held at the American Legion Post 405. Some really interesting information came from that. Our Secretary of Veterans Affairs was there. I'll hold off on any more comments until Michaela reports on, gives us her report at a future meeting, but it was very interesting, so I was happy to. And again, just thank everybody for their wonderful decorations. The town of Raynham looks awesome, and please, as the chief mentioned, just be safe. That's all I have.
Thank you, Ms. Riley. I just have 2 things. One of them, it's touching upon what you mentioned about the odor. I did have an opportunity to talk to Mr. Tanis about that. He's done a couple site visits out there, and DEP has also done 2 site visits out there. So he's been in some communication with DEP regarding that issue. I also talked to Chief Donovan this evening. After speaking to a few residents who were concerned with the process we had set up probably a decade ago in terms of residents after hours being able to communicate with the police department. And I let the chief know that I continue to advocate for that, and he has no issues with that. His offices will be made aware. So for residents who are experiencing those issues after hours, I would strongly suggest they call the non-emergency line at the police department, and the police department will go. It's important that they do this because we have to be able to substantiate the odor. Any person, any business is entitled to due process, and part of due process is being able to substantiate by an impartial person the fact that there's something going on. So calling and lodging the complaints is one thing, but us being able to substantiate it is something else. But what I'd also like to do, Ms. Riley, if we could, is have our town administrator coordinate with Mr. Tanis and the police chief to get on the website the exact number the chief would like residents to call the non-emergency line. And I also asked the chief on a biweekly basis to turn over a record of any complaints that his department receives to the health department, so that way we have one central database of those complaints. And I'm confident that some of those improvements in communication and process will hopefully assist the residents accomplish what they're looking to accomplish. So I technically can't motion because I'm the chairman, but I would ask that you would indulge me and do that.
Even if we need a motion for that, but certainly, I think that's a good procedure to go forward with. So if you would need a motion for that.
Yeah, I think where we're instructing 3 department heads, I think it would be prudent if you don't
Sure.
object.
Okay, I will make that motion then.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And then the only other thing that we have, that I would suggest is we have to set our holiday schedule. Christmas and New Year's are on Tuesdays, so we will obviously not be meeting on Christmas or New Year's.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, if you want to come in, Miss Riley. I would propose 12/26 at 7:45 a.m., a special meeting, nothing on the agenda other than to sign the bills and warrants so our staff can get paid.
Okay, that's fine. No problem.
Do you want a motion?
Yes.
Yes. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
That is approved. Mr. Flaherty, you'll get that posted. Thank you. That is all we have for Selectmen's reports. Correspondence, we have to have a hearing for a change of manager for Walmart for their liquor license. 3 weeks out, Miss Riley, because of the holiday. Actually, it would be probably a month out now, because we can't do it next week, 26th. Yeah, so it would be a month out. The 8th?
That's the special town meeting, but that shouldn't be an issue.
We could do it at
correct?
6:30. Does that work for you?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
That is set. From the North School Committee to the Honorable Board of Selectmen, please be advised that the North School Committee held a meeting on December 5th, 2018, and at the meeting voted to unanimously recommend the Board of Selectmen dedicate a room in the North School to former North School Principal, Miss Kathleen Roberts. Sincerely, Marcia Sylvia, Secretary.
I think that's a wonderful idea. I can remember Kathleen visiting after she was a volunteer, many years after she'd retired, visiting one of those classrooms when they still, believe it or not, they still had classes there. And she was dressed up as Mrs. Santa Claus. And I think Kathy Clarkin, who was the first grade teacher, and I were in the back of the classroom in hysterics because you would have really thought it was Mrs. Santa Claus. She got right into character, and the kids were asking her questions about Santa Claus and all kinds of the reindeer and what he feeds them and everything, and it was just a real trip. So I think that would be an excellent honor for Kathleen. I know she would appreciate that.
I would agree. I have no issues. Ms. Roberts was a delightful person and an asset to the town. So if you want to make that in the motion,
I'll make that motion.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
That is approved. The final two pieces of correspondence. To the Board of Selectmen, please be advised that the North School Committee held a meeting on December 5th, 2018, and after the discussion on storage that will be going into the North School soon and the cat adoption project known as NOAA, the North School Committee voted by a majority vote to recommend to the Board of Selectmen the school be secured and vacant by January 1st, 2019. Marcia Sylvia, Secretary. And we also received correspondence from a Beverly Strathy. I'm awful at names, Miss Riley. To whom it may concern, I would love to join Animal Lovers Tuesday night, but cannot be at the meeting to support them. I am a cat kitten foster mother for Linda Brackett. As an experienced foster, I know she does more for unwanted cats and kittens than anybody south of Boston. If she cannot continue her work, many thousands kittens will be born and die. There will be more feral colonies in your area. Please allow her to continue her mission of saving lives by allowing her to use of the town's facility. I have been to her adoptions. They are well run, efficient, and each adopter is within a volunteer presence at all times while in the building. Nobody who comes to adopt a kitten knows or cares that there are town files nearby. Everybody is only interested in helping animals have a decent life. Please show your humanity and let things stay the way they are. It is very rewarding to see each life saved when they are on their way to forever homes. Linda should be congratulated for the time and effort she puts into saving animals. Please do not force her out. And again, Beverly, and I apologize, Beverly, because I just butchered your name. Miss Riley.
I also received correspondence, too. It was addressed to me personally, Mr. Pacheco, but there was a note that I would be appreciated if I would share it at the
Please.
meeting. And it says, I'm writing to you today as a resident of the town of Raynham. I just read an article in the Enterprise that we are again revisiting the issue of the NOAA cat adoption program that is held in the North School. I've raised two children that have grown up in Raynham that are adults now and have thrived, thanks in part for you never wavering in your advocacy to the children of the town. I hope that you will also vote yes in favor of continuing this wonderful program for the kittens and cats, and that's signed Lisa Schoaf, 142 Britain Circle. So I would make a motion that we take those three letters under advisement.
For discussion. I would like Miss Riley to give people in the audience an opportunity to speak to us tonight.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
But my motion still would be, I think that it's only appropriate that we take those under advisement,
Okay.
since it's really not an agenda, it's not on the agenda for us to take any action, and also since one member of our board who has strong feelings, I think, should be here to participate in any discussion.
I would ask that,
But certainly, I'm
Yeah.
willing to listen to anything
Sure.
anyone has to say.
sure, I'm not going to at this time second your motion, but if you want to pose that after discussion, we can revisit that.
Sure.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is give everybody in the audience an opportunity to speak. I try to set some ground rules early so I can be consistent and concise. I would ask that anybody who gets up to speak identifies themselves with their name, their address. They direct any questions or comments to me, not to members in the audience, not to members of the board. That is protocol that we will follow here this evening. Priority will be given to those persons who have yet to speak. Okay, if you want to speak a second time, that's fine, but again, the priority will be to those waiting in queue who have yet to offer their opinion on the issue. So with that, I would open up debate and conversation to anybody who wants to offer any input to the board.
Linda Brackett, 26 Hidden Valley Drive in Raynham. I'm president of NOAA, and I am the assistant animal control officer for the town. I think where I would like to start is with the minutes of the September 5th, 2017 meeting. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at those, but it clearly states that NOAA can stay in the building until such time as there is space needed for storage. And it was Mrs. Donahue made the motion, Mr. Pacheco seconded it, and Mrs. Smith was unanimous. I stopped over there this morning and I took a picture of the room in question. There is not a thing in the room. There are shelves. There is not one box. There is not one piece of paper. The room is totally empty. There's nothing in there. So based on this of, over a year ago, nothing has changed. Everything has remained exactly the same. So I don't understand why this is coming up now. Being the assistant animal control officer, I've got some big concerns. The town doesn't supply any resources whatsoever for any animal other than dogs. And even at that point, a lot of times, we can't get a dog to Lakeville. You'll call there, nobody's available. I can't take a dog home with me. Adam can't take a dog home with him. We put the dog in a cage at North School. All of our equipment is at North School. I don't have room at my house to store the traps and everything. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff at North School that is animal control related. I've got just a few quick examples of if we can't keep the room at North School, we're not going to be able to, I'm not going to be able to do animal control because I'm not going to be able to walk away from these animals that are in need. My biggest, 5 years ago, I think, I wasn't the assistant ACO, but I was still working with Adam as far as rescue goes. He called me, he says, Linda, I got this kitten that its mouth's hanging open, it's totally sick, I don't know what's wrong with it. He brought it over. He had a cleft palate. His name was Justin. I think a lot of you guys remember Justin. Anybody else would have put that kitten to sleep. Justin now lives in a house and he is totally loved. When I was on vacation a few years ago, Adam got a call in somebody's backyard. These 4 feral kittens had gotten into a fishing net, a whole big net. There was a picture of Adam cutting them out of the fishing net. They were dehydrated. They were almost dead. Adam knew they needed immediate medical attention. He took them to one of our volunteers that had all the supplies they needed, the fluids, the antibiotics, to warm them up, everything they needed to get these kittens so they would live. We picked up a Flemish rabbit. That came to my house because you can't take that to Lakeville. We picked up a parakeet. I went out and bought a cage. I didn't build the town for the cage. We placed the parakeet. Mastria Subaru, 3 months ago, they called in the middle of a huge rainstorm. I went down as animal control. They had a feral kitten that ran into their building, and they picked it up and put it in this big, huge box that was higher than this. It was huge. Then they couldn't get the kitten out because it was so feral. Kitten was extremely sick. Brought the kitten back to my house, gave her sub-Q fluids for a week, syringe fed her, gave her antibiotics, took care of her eyes, and she's fine. You can't take that kitten to Lakeville. They don't take cats. You couldn't take that kitten to New England Animal Medical Center to have her treated because they have now refused, and it's not just for Raynham, it's for everybody, to treat or even euthanize a feral cat or kitten. Raynham doesn't have a vet that's willing to work with them. I can make a phone call in desperate need. I've got a really sick cat that got hit, or somebody got hit by a car. They will not euthanize the cat. They won't see us. We don't have time. The only resource we have is the rescue resource of the vet that our rescue uses, and the town gets the benefit of the discount that we get. That's the only vet. I mean, when we take a dog out of a house, that dog's got to be seen because you need documented evidence. You can't get anybody in Raynham to see you. I can't get anybody in Taunton to see me. I mean, there was a cat that was thrown out of a car at Walmart. Somebody noticed it, saw it. I went down there. The cat was under a pallet of like 1,000 pounds of sand. I'm laying on the ground. I got the cat out. I took the cat home. I worked with the MSPCA law enforcement people. We got the guy charged with animal cruelty. I couldn't take that cat if I didn't have a rescue that could place it, but that's a cat that had to be held as evidence. Where's that cat going to go if we're no longer doing rescue? You can't take it to Lakeville. Taunton's not going to take it. There's no other rescue around that's going to take it. A couple of years ago, we had an incident with a ferret and a kitten. A woman had passed away in a property in Raynham. Adam went in and took the kitten and the ferret out of the house. He called me, he says, "I've got a ferret." I'm like, "I don't like ferrets." And he's like, "Well, neither do I, but we got to do something." So we brought the ferret over, and it had fleas and ear mites, and its toenails were curled. I got the ferret all taken care of, all fixed up, and we held it until the woman's family could claim the animals. Where are they going to go? If there's no rescue, where are those animals going to go? I mean, we've worked on a lot of large-scale feral cat issues. I mean, we've taken 75 cats out of one subdivision. We spayed and neutered 25 in there. Early summer, I got a call from a resident in Pine Hill Estates. She says, "I've got a cat and kittens or something up in my mobile home." I'm like, "Well, they must be under your mobile home." "Nope, they're inside." So I went in and I'm looking, and they'd gotten up inside the insulation. I called a friend that her fiance is a plumber. She came over with a camera, and we went in and we figured out where those kittens were. We got them out. If we don't have a rescue the kittens can go to, I can't go get those kittens because I just can't take them and drop them on the side of the road after we're done. Adam and I have both done a lot with other towns as far as we've established some really good relationships. And the way we've done it is say we need help with a dog. We had one a couple of years ago where Adam was going away. I mean, it was planned. I knew it. We trapped a dog we had been chasing for a week. It was a big dog. I couldn't do anything with that dog. I called Lakeville. I'm like, "Dave, I really need your help. I need you to help me come get this dog out of a trap." "No problem, Linda." But what Dave Freites does or Taunton does, if they've got kittens that are sick or they need a place for them, they'll call me. So they're helping us with issues, and we're helping them with issues. But it's not going to be a one-way street. I mean, if I say, "Okay, I can't take your cats anymore," they're not going to come over and help us. I don't know. It's just, there was one comment on Facebook yesterday that really made me smile. A woman says, she doesn't know us. She adopted a kitten from us, and she was ushered into the room. She wasn't allowed anywhere but the room. There was somebody with her, totally there the whole time. She says, and they didn't even care that it was raining out. They made us stand outside in the rain because they only let 2 sets of people in at once. Well, yeah, that's what we do because, that's the only way to keep control. And but it made me smile. The other thing with the building that I found very interesting is Mr. McKinnon made a statement to the Taunton Gazette, I guess on Friday while I was away, that no one but town employees should be allowed in the building. Well, I go to the November 13th, 2018 Board of Selectmen's meeting, where they approved to let CERT and Kevin Marrera, who he is the animal inspector, they allowed him to use a room in the North School for storage, for meetings, and for training. Those people that are going in there are not going to be town employees. They're not even going to be contained in one area like our people are. So again, I think my biggest issue is the town doesn't have resources for anything other than dogs, and everything that's being done for any other type of animal is being done through rescue with no charge to the town whatsoever, for medical bills, for medicine, for anything, nothing. And I just ask that, that the partnership is working, and I believe it needs to continue. You're welcome.
Mr. Halen?
Hello, everyone. Michael Halen. I live in Falmouth, Mass., not in Raynham. I run Raynham Community Access Television. I'm not here to discuss NOAA or the North School. I'm just here to discuss procedure. Raycam, we film every committee meeting, selectmen meeting, town meeting, etc. And I think that this is going to come up again. Now, I'm looking at the agenda. It just says correspondence. Doesn't mention NOAA, doesn't mention the North School. And by having this discussion tonight is going to do a disservice to anyone who's looking for this meeting in the future. If somebody were to go on the Town of Raynham website and type in NOAA, the North School, look at the minutes, they would not be seeing it on this agenda. And if they wanted to go look at the videotape after the fact to see what was said, they can't do so. That is just, as the person and the group in town that film all the meetings, it's going to make things a lot sloppier for everyone when you're looking for a meeting and it's not on the agenda. It sets a bad precedent where in the future, correspondence, people start coming in here and talking about, different votes of the selectmen. It's not a great idea. I didn't know this was happening. I was made aware of this from the Raynham Residents Facebook page. The last time a meeting like this occurred, it got pretty rowdy, and I was here for that. So I just think that moving forward tonight in the future, if you're going to have something that you think is going to be, a fiery issue, having on the agenda helps everyone in the future look back to find these minutes and these meetings and et cetera. So I hope people, take that. Thank you.
I think point well taken, and I think the input is coming in under citizen community input, which we always welcome, and I did state that I don't intend to take any vote on this because it is not on the agenda.
Yeah, I mean, I somewhat share your perspective, Ms. Riley, but I want to make it abundantly clear that as long as I'm on this board, if a person comes to this meeting and wants to address us on any issue, they're going to be allowed to do it. That's how we do things here in Raynham. It might not happen in other places, but that's how we do stuff here. For the 12 years I've been on this board, and it's not going to happen, and I'm going to tell these people that they can't be heard tonight just because they're not on the agenda. So if people want to get mad at me for that, that's perfectly fine, but that's my perspective and my opinion, and I'm entitled to it. Any other comments?
Community input.
It absolutely is, and we always embrace community input.
Good evening. My name is Mary Beth Pettit, and I live at 49 Mary Lou's Court, and we were here for the last meeting on NOAA. My daughter, Sarah, is a sophomore at VR, and she volunteers for NOAA, and she wanted to make a statement tonight.
I'm Sarah Pettit, 49 Mary Lou's Court. I'm a sophomore at Bridgewater Raynham Regional High School, and I'm a volunteer at NOAA. I attended the previous meeting here about a year ago concerning NOAA. I understand that one of the board's concerns about the organization is using the North School as an area for town documents. However, it's unreasonable to say that there's an immediate need for NOAA space to put the town documents there. NOAA only uses a small room in the lower floor of the building for around 2 hours during adoption events on Saturday mornings. And based on past statements, several of the rooms in the building are mainly clear and able to hold documents other than the NOAA room. It's been said that the two biggest departments in the town, fire and police, are not planning on using the North School as an area to store documents. The majority of the school is completely empty, therefore claiming that using the NOAA room space for immediate use is unjustifiable. It was also voiced that the document security was an issue regarding NOAA occupying the building. However, it is illogical to place sensitive material in a vacant building. The North School is completely vacant except for the room used by Noah, with little to no security that is known. And placing sensitive materials there is asking for trouble, as the North School has been vandalized before. And it would be logical to place these sensitive documents in a building that's likely to have some more security, such as a town hall. However, sensitive documents are placed here. Noah's volunteers escort any outside person looking to adopt a kitten into the room. The organization itself would therefore not be an issue to have in the building with those documents. Besides this, Noah is a complete volunteer-only organization, and no one in the organization gets paid or is forced to do this. Everyone who's involved in this organization does so out of the goodness of their heart and for the benefit and the welfare of the town. Noah is able to take hundreds of stray cats out of the streets each year and is able to place them in loving homes at absolutely no cost to Raynham. By taking Noah out of the North School, you will be limiting the work that we can do to help the town. Noah volunteers have put in countless hours of their time to help and aid the town of Raynham. Its service has saved the towns millions of dollars, and that Noah takes up this work themselves as volunteer at no expense to the town whatsoever. Without Noah, the town would have to build an animal shelter, probably. With this animal shelter, it costs the towns millions of dollars, from building and renovating to paying several employees. The Nasket Orphan Animal Haven is an excellent example of how volunteerism benefits the community. People from all ages and families come together to save felines' lives while saving our community a lot of money. It is a trusted and well-known volunteer effort across the town. This dispute over allowing volunteers to complete their services that benefit the entire town places a poor reputation regarding how volunteerism is taken by the board. Volunteering should be embraced and encouraged in this town, yet this conflict regarding one small room in an absolutely completely vacant building degrades this concept severely and places question on if the ideas expressed by the board regarding Noah are the best for the citizens of Raynham. As a part of the Raynham community and a volunteer, I humbly ask you, our select board members, to do what is best for the town, to do what is just, consider what will benefit your local community the most, and to show us what volunteerism means to you. Thank you.
Be very proud of yourself. Thank you. Anybody else?
Good evening. My name is Nicole Bevilacqua. I reside at 524 Elm Street East. I hadn't planned on speaking, so I didn't prepare anything formally. However, I adopted through this program. I went to an event. We have a very important family member that we got thanks to Linda. And, I've lived here my whole life. The town is growing. We don't have a place for these animals. So unless we're going to build a kennel or a place to have proper animal control, I really don't see how we can do without Noah. Maybe if the North School isn't the best place for it, then maybe the town can help find another place. I didn't hear any suggestions on any alternative locations. I've been to the North School. There was no way that I was going to access any other part of the school other than the one room where the cats were. I interacted with Linda and the volunteers. It was extremely well run. And I think from a security standpoint, that doesn't seem like the most secure building, just in my opinion. And from a storage perspective, I question why we're keeping paper documents in a somewhat dilapidated building anyway. It seems like they would be better stored electronically, but that's just my opinion. I've been in technology for a long time. So I really would hate to see anything happen to this program. I think that it's benefits not only Raynham, but surrounding communities. And I actually learned that you do a lot more than I even originally thought. So thank you, and thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you.
My name's Kelsey Bagg. I am a NOAA volunteer. I'm not a Raynham resident. I'm a Mansfield resident, 14 Webb Place. I just wanted to briefly say, the North School building is our only option right now, and without it, there is no NOAA for the town. And from my experience, having been a volunteer for God, how long now? Over 10 years. It's not what's right for the town, and it would be a very poor decision. Something that hasn't been said about the room that we are in. We're only there a couple of hours during adoption events only. They only occur on Saturday mornings. Again, the number of people allowed in the room is always contained to the number that are supposed to be there. We keep a close eye on it, and the room itself can be secured from the other areas in the building so that nobody that enters can get to any stored documents, though I don't believe that, there is a big confidentiality concern as far as the last meeting, September of last year. I do believe, Mr. Pacheco, that you stated that fire and police wouldn't be storing in that building. So I'm not sure if there really is a security concern at all, but, it's minimal. However, like I said, the room itself can be blocked off from the other, areas in the building. So if the concern is not a space concern, I don't think there's a real issue here. Just wanted to state that because I do think that, Noah belongs here, and, without Noah, not quite sure what Raynham will do.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anybody else? Ma'am?
Hello, I apologize for being late. I was at the middle school concert. I left early because my 7th grade daughter said, "You better go talk on behalf of the cats." So I left early, I'm here. I'm kind of confused as to why cats and paperwork can't live together.
Could I stop you for 1 second?
Yeah.
You missed my prelude. Can you just give us your name and address,
Oh
please?
yeah, it's Lisa Borgini, it's 11 Titicut.
Thank you. Now you may
Raynham.
continue.
Okay. I guess I'm kind of confused as to why cats and paperwork can't live together, and I get the impression that this is something that's come up again and again, and I'm just confused as to how that's possible. There must be some sort of protocol that says that if nothing has changed since the last time this was discussed, that perhaps we can just say, we don't entertain this motion, because it seems like there's a very strong support for the shelter among town residents and non-town residents alike. The cost to change to any other kind of system would be astronomical, both in terms of housing the cats, both in terms of staffing, a new building, retrofitting. This seems the most practical, economical option, and it seems like most people are in favor of it. So is there any way that we can pass like a town bylaw? I mean, I don't know how these things work, but that says we support the Noah shelter, and unless we see a particular risk that has never been seen before, that we can allow paperwork to live with cats. I don't know, that's just my opinion.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anybody else?
Hi, my name is Kara Kosmiski. I live at 53 Gatsby Drive. I just found out about all this about a week or so ago when I had a pipe burst in my condo, so I was moving out while it renovates. But there's a cat that is living in my complex that has obviously been abandoned. One of the neighbors moved and the cat was left behind. So the neighbors have been feeding it and taking care of it for the past 2 or 3 months. On December 1st, I called animal control to see if somebody could come and either take the cat or tell me what I could do with the cat. And after a while, a few days actually had gone by before I got any kind of a response. I learned at that time that there was no shelter in town for cats. And it's getting into the single digits at night. This cat is going to die, and there is no resource in town that can take it. I'm not really a cat person. I'm allergic to cats. I'd take it if I could, but I don't know what to do with this cat. And if the town has a resource, but it's going to get rid of that resource, is there any way that the town has found any kind of alternative solution to it? Is there any kind of other location that they can house this facility in? I mean, I read the bylaws for the animal control before I came to this meeting, and there are 2 areas in the animal control bylaws that are specific to cats. One is when they need to be vaccinated against rabies, and the other is for when they need to be the limitations on how many cats a residence can have. That's it. Everything else is specific to dogs. They're animals, they're not people, but equal protection, come on, there's none of that. So I think that it's something that, the town definitely needs to address it. It's a serious matter. These cats can't be left to their own devices. They're going to die. It's something that I think that the town has the resource. If they can find a place to keep it in one room in one building that's vacant right now. I had a conversation earlier this afternoon where I was told that the paperwork that will be stored in the North School will be secured, in a file cabinet of some kind. It's not going to be accessible to people. So how much security is really needed for this. I mean, the documents that are going to be in there, I understand are secure documents and there's personal information that's going to be in there. But cats, having one room in that school for the cats, I don't think is asking too much. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody else? Mr. Shivo?
I will, yes. I will be the tail of the dog.
Did you mean the dog or the cat?
I don't think he heard you.
So, I don't know that, Mike could turn up the volume a little bit, maybe that would help. So, I'm not really sure, I have my Cliff Notes, and so I don't ever leave the house without my Cliff Notes, but I'm not really sure why this vote came about again. I really, I have here in the head end of my Cliff Notes, here we go again, and I've got it in bold print. Here we go again, and I'm just not clear on why the animal rescue volunteers are being literally chased out of the Old North School. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. Maybe somebody here does, but it's just it's difficult to comprehend. I remember serving on this board a few years ago. Chairman Pacheco was there at the time, and at the time, the Old North School, there was a question of what we, the town of Raynham, did with the Old North School. You remember this, Chairman Pacheco? And we said, well, one group says, let's tear it down. Some of you have been around long enough to remember that. Another group said, no, let's save it. We won't do anything with it. It could be an asset, some historical type of venue at some point in the future. That was another group. Another group said, let's do affordable housing. We're always behind the 8 ball in Raynham because we're putting up a lot of new buildings. So let's do affordable housing. And then we said, why don't we, and the board did this, let's set up a committee for the Old North School, and have the committee come up with a plan, a plan which would really outline how the school would be handled in the future. We would say in the hood, effectuated. What was would the plan be effectuated? What are the details? Give us the specifics on what we're going to do with the Old North School. Not bits and pieces, not, So that's why we originally set up the committee for the Old North School. Now, that committee, comes up with a decision, a motion's made, and the committee said, well, we don't want the volunteer, no group here, and you go, well, as having been a person not sitting up there, okay, the committee doesn't want this, so what is their plan? If you don't want them, that's okay. We brought you here to give us a plan of action. And, the group here, they spend, 2 hours a week. There's 168 hours a week. They spend 0.1% of the week there. I know this because I have a calculator on my iPhone, So they spend 0.1%, not a percent, 0.1% of the week there, literally. I mean, come on, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, And then when you look at the meager pay that these people get for their volunteer, the ACO. And by the way, I could be wrong about this, Mr. Chairman, but I think the ACO and the Joint ACO, I think they're employees of the town. I've been there, I've helped to run the town, and I think if you're on the town payroll, you're an employee of the town. I think. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So if the access to the Old North School is for employees, I got some news for you. These people are employees. Take that to the board. So, and by the way, the pay, my calculator, 168 hours a week. These people, Linda, that works because they're on call 24 a day. They're on call. That's $1.49 an hour. That's too much money, lady.
I'm sorry.
So, We got to take something from it. So, you know, it's, the people that have spoken tonight have been, I mean, anything I have to say is really just a summary. All the comments are so relevant if you combine them all together. And, you know, basically, other towns do have shelters. In fact, I'd be hard-pressed to know of a town that didn't have an animal shelter. My daughter happens to live in North Attleboro, so I'm somewhat familiar with the town. They have an animal shelter, which I would call the Taj Mahal of animal shelters. Now, I'm not proposing the town of Raynham build an animal shelter. That's not what I'm doing. We don't have an animal shelter, but what we have is a few very dedicated, hardworking, low, no-pay volunteers. And Linda, I don't know, do you ever get any rest? I worry about you, I really do. Do you ever get it? I mean, you work your heart out. Most of us who know you understand how much you put into it. And I have to tell you, my heart goes out to the work you do.
Thank you. I was on vacation last week.
Yeah, and I tell you, well, I just know how much you do.
Thank you.
When these volunteers find, you know, an abandoned or an injured pet, they literally keep these animals in their own homes very often. I know from the past, we keep the animals in the homes because there's no place to bring them. So, you know, the reason they spend a few hours, literally 2 hours, some weeks not at all, actually, but the reason they spend a couple of hours a week at the Old North School is they need a venue for potential adopters. They have to have a place to show the animals. Actually, my son actually adopted a cat from you. I don't know how he found out. I got a little suspicious about that because I never told him about it, but his family were looking at it, they know him and ran. So they adopted a cat there at the Old North School. They must have run in there in that 20 minutes you were there, and you know, you did your homework on them, and they got the kitty, which is great. I would have to say, in good conscience, we should be supporting our volunteers. In good conscience. I put this in red, so I'm going to say this in red. If there is some problem with the volunteers spending a few hours a week at the Old North School, how about focusing on fixing the problem? I mean, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. If there is a problem, all right, ladies and gentlemen, let's fix the problem so that they can have access to that facility. Now, I know, I've heard Linda say that if they are not able to work that few hours a week in the Old North School, she's out of the game because she has no alternative. She's done. Am I right, Linda?
Yes.
Are you kidding me? If Linda goes, we have nothing in the way of helping stray animals, cats, dogs, you name it. Adam Perry, the work he does, I know from our previous work. You're out of it. So if the Old North School, if that's not available, we don't even have a program. Forget about a shelter. We got nothing. Nada. I got this in red too. If you simply, the committee, that is, if you simply don't want the volunteers at the building, for whatever reason, I have no idea, but if you say, we just don't like them, we don't want them, how about finding them a suitable alternative before you kick them out? Is that a big thing to ask for? Okay, you don't like them. That's okay, I get it. That's fine. I don't know what they did. But if you don't like them, find something for them before you throw them, kick them into the curb. The animals and the pets that the volunteers help are helpless. I'm a pretty big advocate of helping helpless. I really, truly, truly am. And I have to say, without regard for the helpless, and I just, not just animals, pets, but elderly people, children, helpless, where's the compassion? Give me a break. Where's the compassion? I feel it. I really, truly do. I'm not here because I enjoy this. I'm here because I feel that compassion for these animals. We have 2 cats, by the way. Sorry who the last lady was that said allergic to them. But our cats, I'll tell you, it's amazing. People don't think they're smart. The more love you give them, the more they give back. My cat follows me around the house, waits upstairs for me to climb the stairs. It's a cat. Actually, I know people aren't as smart as this cat, to be honest with you, but that's another story. I think virtually everybody in our community, I've talked to a lot of people about this because I'm involved in this because of my advocacy for animals. I think virtually everybody in this community sees the effort to close the door on the volunteers as unfathomable. And I've got this in bold type. This is 22 point Verdun, bold. It's sad. It is sad to be in this discussion. It really is. So, I just want to say, I hope that, I hate the word hope, actually. I'm not a big fan of it. I would implore, the committee who had made this motion to really rethink this, to leave some time for the people to work out whatever plausible, alternative there is, so that there isn't any discontinuity, so that we don't have people leaving the volunteer work. Let's maintain the continuity. Let's be sure that if we go from A to B, we've got a track that enables this to be done in a very, very compassionate way. And I just hope that the town stands behind this in a very serious way. I don't know what the problem is, but honestly, I think we can work it out. There's too much good work to do here not to work together to find a solution. And thank you, Mr. Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Mr. Shivo. Anybody else?
I have one more to say, just based on what he said too.
Sure. I'll just let that woman speak, and then, thank you.
Good evening. Barbara LaFlamme from 68 Mary Lou's Court, and I came and I actually brought a guest. And he had to stay in the bag because, you see, he's feral. So I came to be this cat's voice. The cat has no voice. This one has no voice, and those injured animals have no voice. We're Raynham. We can do better than to throw out a wonderful organization that saves injured animals. So come on, we're Raynham. We're the town of a wonderful school system, a wonderful veterans organization, and 2 Walmarts. We can do this, people. So be the voice of this cat and step up and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. LaFlemme. Do you mind just going up there? Thank you.
I just wanted to mention on one of the comments that he had said when he said, without NOAA, we have nothing. And it wasn't mentioned. Unfortunately, without NOAA, we will have something, and that will be a huge feral cat population in Raynham, which, if you've seen feral cat populations anywhere else, the statistics on how quickly they grow is astronomical. Cats just reproduce like crazy. They reproduce with their parents. It's not a great situation. So unfortunately, that's what will happen in Raynham, and then I don't know where we'll turn. So that's all.
Thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Brackett.
Just quickly to follow up on that, I mean, we've cleaned up at least 9 major feral cat issues. Was in one subdivision, we spayed and neutered 25 or 28, took over 75 kittens. The whole neighborhood was up in arms, and now everybody's fine. There's a couple other big issues that we've dealt with, probably taken 25 litters of kittens from one place, but we've got everybody in there done. I mean, over the last 5 years, we've done a lot of work with these big colonies, and now the smaller ones to work on, but we've got the large ones under control, but they're going to come back.
Thank you.
Can I just add one thing? I forgot to mention in my excitement of being here,
Sure.
running in late, that I actually have the experience of having a cat just show up at my house. And I have never had a response rate so incredibly impressive. It was like after 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and they were at my house with a cage for the cat within 2 hours. I mean, that is unheard of. I mean, you can't ask for that anywhere else. Like, we don't have that kind of delivery service in other towns. And so I think, not only is this an incredible service, but it's better than what other towns have. So I want to thank you for what an incredible operation you run. Thank you.
Ms. Donahue.
Karen Donahue, 198 Elm Street East. Linda had called me when I was a former selectman and said, "You always said you would help me." I said, "Whatever you need." So it was one night, after leaving a town selector meeting, there was 6 kittens under a shed on Route 44, and she said, "I have something for you." And I thought it was going to be 1 kitten to take in for a couple of days and help bottle feed. No, it was 6 kittens for about 8 weeks that you had to bottle feed. And that was my first experience with Linda.
How many of those did you keep?
I kept 2. And she said I was a foster failure because I kept them. Then she came to me again with another group, did it again, and then I somehow volunteered on my own and said, "Linda, I found kittens." And she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, they just came to me, and I have these kittens that are in my backyard that I have to keep, and my nephew has kittens under a shed. I took them in, and before I knew it, I had 12 kittens in my house, bottle feeding them all." So they all have been successful, absolutely great experiences. I wouldn't miss them for the world to do that. But it, like being said, there are times I have come home at 1 o'clock in the morning and 1 kitten is like flatlined in the middle of the living room floor, and I had to do CPR on it and bring it back. That cat is 6 months old, still in my house, still having breathing issues, but he's 7 pounds now. He's thriving. He's an amazing cat. I love the cat. But that just being said, these kittens, there's 6 kittens in one litter, 6 kittens in another, 5 in another, 8 in another. This one, this one, this one. I mean, I'm going out in the middle of my night, catching kittens, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, trapping kittens for her, helping her. And if I didn't do this and we didn't do this, these 6 or 10 or however many would have 6 or 10 or however many more kittens in the population. It would be astronomical how many kittens, feral kittens. So you think about it, the wildlife that comes out, the animals that have come out in the middle of the night to eat these kittens. You don't want to talk about it, but it happens. They're out in the cold. All these kittens would be out in the freezing cold right now in the 7-degree weather that we're having. Baby kittens. I have 5 that I have to bring tomorrow to get fixed. All on her dime. All to get fixed, neutered, spayed, all vet checked, everything, because they're going to go up for adoption on Saturday at North School. And if we didn't have North School, these kittens wouldn't be there. So, I mean, kudos to her, and kudos to the town, and kudos to these volunteers that do all this work for no pay, no money. It's the goodness of their heart because they love animals. And I don't understand why paperwork and pets can't all coincide. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donahue. Anybody else? Last call. Mr. McKinnon?
Thank you. Before I get into this issue, I'm going to ask you to bear just 5 seconds with me. I have the 2 names. One I've been pushing for longer than I care to remember would be Kathleen Roberts for the North School. But also, I've been waiting for the other committee to meet, and we've had a little trouble getting together. And I have been lobbying as a member of the legislature, which is what I am, for Dorothy Newton. Now, that would mean that we'd have Mr. Sullivan, educator in the center school. We'd have Kathleen Roberts in the North School, and we'd have Dorothy Eastman in the South School. And that would encompass educators in what we call the 3 small schools. And I agree with Richard. Richard and I, by the way, till our show was canceled because of lack of, well, maybe another time, Richard, we'll try it. We agreed to disagree. And here we are tonight. We're still agreeing to disagree. It is a small town. We love that. I am going to leave with Town Administrator David, who, by the way, has attended many of the North, and I am on the North School Committee meeting, and he has attended many of our meetings, and he's been of great help. So I thank you publicly for the work that you've done with the committee, David. We appreciate it. And I will leave with you some of the minutes of the North School. Now, for those who and I'm sure, Richard, when you were saying kudos to the volunteers, I'm sure you included members of the North Committee, and because there is about 8 or 10 of them that has been meeting since 2015. I'm getting close. And they have met and unheralded, and all they did. Now, I like to give committees names once in a while, and this one I say, no good deed goes unpunished. Yeah, I know you love us, and you say, oh yeah, he's a very nice guy. McKenna's a very nice guy. He was a very nice guy. He's not a nice guy anymore. So that is the price you pay when you take the oath. When the selectmen asked our members to merge, they asked us to find a goal, and then we found a goal. And then when we found the goal, which I will agree with Vice Chairman Pacheco, he and I, we were not particularly in a hurry to do much with that building for a period of time. It was a long time coming. And so I'm trying to pay for the sins of the past. And I went on that committee full-time. It's the only committee I've gone on in the last 6 years. And it is said to be for files, and people seem to be treating files like, let me explain to you what the files are. They're not our choice. The North School Committee didn't get together and say, I want this file, that file, that. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts says, you will preserve those files. We didn't ask for the goal, and we didn't ask to preserve those files. It's a law. And so the law that we're talking about here is for how long? Now, basically what you're saying is if the time comes when the building will have a lot of files, a whole bunch of files on the first floor now. We're only talking first floor now, you understand that? And when the time comes, then we will address that. Well, let me tape this report tonight and replay that if we went along with that, if we okayed it until the time came again, and then there would be the new group of people, you people would be on to other things, and there'd be the new group of people coming in and saying, it'd be the same battle trying to locate a building for files. Now, you may think files are not important and this and that. That's fine for you to do. But whenever I've taken a goal, and I've had a few goals in my lifetime, whenever I've taken a goal, it hasn't been for today. The goal has been for tomorrow. And when I say that I'm trying to get, and Chairman Pacheco's dad is a policeman, when I say I'm trying to get the police to use that location, I am also saying I agree with the police not using that location. I'm trying to get people to use the location for the files, but I'm agreeing with the people that don't use it for their files. And the reason is that in a prior life, one of my many, I've had more careers, and I was an insurance investigator, and I would go into the police department, and I would try to get files. Oh, yeah? They would let you know, those files aren't for you to look at, Mick. Don't tell me you want to see those files. And that's what police do with files. So when the chief of police says he doesn't want to use the North School for files, I'm behind him 100%. Until I can do as best I can to make sure that that building is secure. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not talking about cats, I'm talking about people. And you are not telling me you know who's coming into that night, with who they are or what they have for intentions. And go speak to the chief of the Raynham Police and try to discuss it with him. Go down to the police station someday and just go in there. To Jimmy in the fire department. Go down there and try to explain to them that people will be coming from not just Raynham, as we say, other towns. They'll come from other towns, and we don't know who are they. We don't know who they are. Why are they there? And if you think that chief is going to take you as serious as the meeting people here are tonight, I think you're guessing a little bit wrong. But see, I think we've got, and I will say this to the members of the board, you have appointed to the North School people who I have never, ever attended a committee meeting where the people were better intended. That is their intentions. And under the no good deed goes unpunished, we're fully aware that that's what's going to happen. But I will say that what I'm handing to Town Administrator David this evening, besides that, is this document that I've been talking about now for maybe a year or two, and yet everyone doesn't know it, so it's my fault for not, so I'm gonna, it isn't that long, Joe. It isn't that long.
Mr. McKinnon, you take as much time as you want.
Thank you, Joe, I appreciate it. You spoiled me. Front page above the fold, I might add. That's another story. We'll talk about that. To the left. Here is the way it reads, folks. It says here that building in such a land and at a time of conveyance, when they're conveying it to us, say that it's to be used for recreation and agricultural purpose. That's what you've heard now for the past 2 years about that location. For those of you who may not be aware of what I'm talking about, I'm talking about the building on the Borden Colony. It is a small building. Does it need some upkeep and care? I'm sure that anyone who cares to go in and work in that building in lieu of rent would repair and upkeep that building. And it's a beautiful small building. It has now the horse shows that you see. They have that half of it, and I would say the other half of it should be used for the animal adoption. And it says here, now this is where I don't know who didn't read beyond, so I'm going to give you the read beyond. Or, that's always a good word in a contract. Or, for such other use as the town shall determine. Where was that word? Let me say it again now. Or for what other use the town may determine. Do you hear in that sentence saying you can't use it for something else other than, you've got the Lions Club in one building, you've got the senior center in another building, you've got the horse show in another building, you've got a lady renting a house in another building. Most of the property on that location is not used for either recreation or for agriculture. And so therefore, and how are they doing it? Well, they looked at this, let me say it again now, or for such other use as the town shall determine, provided that it does not, and it goes on to say, interfere with recreation or agriculture. I've been granted by the North Committee to meet with the superintendent of Park and Recreation. For all those tonight who have been saying the town hasn't been doing anything else, and I will then therefore, and one of the reasons I came here tonight, I heard that, Marie might make it here tonight, and I wanted the minutes to show that as a member of the North Committee, the Board of Selectmen appoints one of their members, and it was Marie Smith, to our committee. She was a regular member of our committee. And I will say that for all, I'll say myself, all these so-called selectmen over the period of years have never, ever spent the amount of time that Marie Smith has spent to find a location. And she has appeared before the Park and Rec people. She has gone to this particular location that I'm talking about. I think you know where it is. the Gincana building, very small building on there. And that could be converted into a permanent area. It can be brought up to code very quickly for a very small amount. And when people tell me now that the board, our board, or school, has not done anything, I look to the Board of Selectmen, who have appointed Marie Smith, who came in and did all this. And Marie has spent many, many hours with, by the word, I haven't heard too many friendly statements about Marie Smith, and that's one of the reasons I'm here tonight. I'm here to tell you, stop it. It's not right what you say. And if you look into this, you will find that, yes, it is allowable in the Borden Colony. I will include this with David when I give him this other information here, and I believe it will resolve the issue. Now, I'd like this, by the way, to also be given back to the town council, because that document, they call it a contract for the Borden Colony. I got to say 100, I guess, but it could be thousands even of hours. The town, all the way back to Conservation Commission with Deacon John Welsh, all the way up to when Alan Chalker finally got it to the House and the Senate, and Governor King signed it. And we flew with a helicopter over the Borden Colony trying to convince each other that what it was worth or what its value was. And now I hear that the North School Committee is writing the state. They want the state to... The less you talk to the state, the better off you are. And they don't want it. They're not getting back to the committee because they know they have nothing to say on this, because they read the OR. Now, if there's any argument with it, it says for any use you choose. And again, I'm going to sum it up now. The properties that are used on the Borden Colony, most of them, except for the office, we had the haunted house. Do you people remember the haunted house? They burnt it down for practice. And so there are other buildings that were destroyed when they were there. And so this is what I'm saying. I'll give you this, David. You don't have to get up because you've had a full day. I know you have. So, I'm going to be pushy. And I'll give you this, and this can be forwarded on to the board if they choose, whatever the minutes that we, the North School Committee, met over the period of time. And yes, there's two different sources of opinion. You could even call it agree to disagree. And that's the way we lasted for, how long did that last? A year and a half, maybe? Maybe 6 weeks? I don't know. Thank you all very much. You've been more than kind to a guy that it isn't the first time I've been had this sort of reaction. I want you to know it's been done before.
Thank you, Mr. McKinnon.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, Patricia. Oh, David, you sit down over there.
Anybody else? Thank you. Mr. Shivo? Mr. Donahue?
I would just like to say a couple of things. Mr. McKenna was very gracious to come up and say what he had to say about the land. And yes, Marie Smith has done numerous things to try to get the land for Noah. But one thing we don't know, or maybe we're not privy to, if they do allow Noah on the property, and the state comes in and says, no, this is not viable, the town of Raynham loses all that land. All the acreage, everything is gone. The state can just take it and pull it out. The other thing tonight that everybody was so big on, Noah storage, that it's a secure building and nobody can go in there and do anything. Well, really? Because I went into town hall tonight and just walked around, and it said storage. The door was wide open, and I took all the pictures. So, seriously, come on. Here's my phone, Dave, if you would like to take the pictures of that. I'll leave it with you.
Mr. Shivo?
Yes, thank you so much. And I'm sorry I neglected earlier to give my house address, Dick Shavo. And it was 218 Hickory Drive when I left. I'm not so sure now, but it was this morning anyway. So, with all due respect to Don, and I'm so impressed he remembers our TV show. I didn't win many arguments, and I'm not so sure I'm going to do a hell of a lot better tonight, but thank you for remembering that, Don. You see, here's the thing that I don't quite get. The dissonance between what we would like to do and what we have in place to effect it, to make it happen. What I'm trying to say is, all of this is well and good, but the way I understand it, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's kind of like there's a movement out there, there's a committee vote out there, there's a pressure out there to get the group out by January, whatever it is, January 1st. Well, I mean, that's just a couple of weeks away. Where's the plan? I mean, I want the skids greased. You see, what this is putting the cart before the horse. Is there any better way to put it? I'm going to throw you out, and someday, maybe I'll have a place to put you. But in the meantime, you're out in the street. I don't get it. If you got a place to put me when you're throwing me out, I'm going to listen. I mean, if it's not as good, maybe we can negotiate. But if it's as good, okay, if it makes you happy, this is the whole game of give and take. Yeah, we're past policy. We're almost into politics. But so there's a real dissonance here. Now, back to Dawn's point, I do want to say this because I have served on the board. I know Marie very well. Worked with her for a number of years. Served with her. I am very, very much appreciative of all she has done for the town of Raynham, and I'm very aware of it. So I want to give her that credit. She's been a loyal, very much involved, and no less than Ms. Riley, also very, very long record of work in the town. So I want to say that I understand that, and I have the greatest respect for all that Marie and the others that we're talking about have done. But I just want to say this push that we're hearing from the committee is, to put it mildly, a step too far. Put that on the billboard. It's a step too far. I just hope, and I already told you once, I'm not a big fan of the word hope. I implore, I entreat the group, the committee, to get on the other side of the street, the other side of the aisle, whichever they prefer walking down. Come and see the other side of this, and take a bigger view. And if we're going to do something, let's have a plan. Let's be a little more strategic about it. That's not this knee-jerk stuff. And nowhere do I work, and I've got a large background in a lot of businesses and schools and professor and all the rest. If you got a plan, let's hear it. And, we'll work with you. But if there's no plan and it's just kick you to the curb, I don't buy it, I don't get it, and I don't think anybody else in the town is going to get it. Sorry, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shivo.
Linda Brackett still. I just want to say thank you to everybody, and it's not just me. It's it's been Linda. It's not. It's everybody in this room. It's my volunteers. It's Sarah. It's Riley. It's Kelsey. It's Karen. It's Adam listening to me having a fit over something. It's it's everybody. It's not just Linda. It's a lot of people. I mean, and this was short notice, and I was out of town. I didn't get home until Sunday night, and I came home to this firestorm. And, actually, I heard about it because somebody called me on my cruise and told me there was something going on, but it was, no. But it's everybody. It's not just me. And I can't do this by myself. There is no way I can do this by myself. It takes an awful lot of people.
Thank you, Ms. Brackett.
And I want to thank everybody for their help and their support.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. So, Ms. Riley, I wanted to get back to what your original request was, and make a few comments myself. And Mrs. Laflamme, leave it to you to remind me. You reminded me of stuff back in school when you were my teacher, and you reminded me of something.
Always be an elementary teacher.
Yes, ma'am. There's an old African proverb, and it is, the lion will always be glorified. No, the hunter will always be glorified until a lion can learn to speak. And when you talked about the cats not having a voice, you're 100% accurate. And when you're an elected official, chief priority, your chief goal should not be to sit on the sidelines and not have an opinion. It should be to speak up, especially for those who don't have a voice. And that's what's happening here tonight. And what's most disappointing to me is this board had previously said that the cats could stay there until the room was needed for storage. And that's the most frustrating part to me, because to me it was what we call in politics a settled issue. And you don't go back and revisit the issue unless there have been significant changes to the dynamic. And in my estimation, there have been no significant changes to the dynamic. And as some people have offered us today in comments, there's no boxes there yet. The storage capacity is not full yet. On top of that, and with all due respect to you, Ms. Riley, if we postpone this till next week, that gives 2 weeks, 14 days, less Christmas and New Year's for NOAA to try to find a location. I think we owe it to NOAA, we owe it to the people in the audience tonight, and we owe it to the residents in Raynham who've offered all of us, including you, Ms. Riley, feedback to settle this for a second time tonight. I don't believe we should kick the can down the road anymore, and I'm a little puzzled as to why we're even having this conversation again, because again, a previous board voted, and the decision of the board at that time was unequivocal. It was that the cats stay until the storage space is needed. And so we're going back and we're shopping for a new answer, and it's disappointing to me. And I don't think that's what Raynham is about. I don't think that's what we should be doing tonight. That's not what I got into public service for. I got into public service to do good, represent my hometown where I'm fourth generation Raynham. And that's what we're doing by helping these cats. And again, the proverb that I said, the lion needs a voice. And I would go one step further, and I would also say, and Mr. Halen gave me this, we want to make sure that all of this is transparent. I would like to see the North School Committee televise their meetings moving forward. That's one of the few committees that's not televised, and I would like to put that request in as well. I think that this is a dialogue that needs to be heard, and when we talk about people not having enough notice, this came from the North School Committee meeting. People would have had more notice if that committee meeting was televised. So that's where I am, Ms. Riley, and I think we'll probably have to, as Mr. McKinnon said, agree to disagree tonight. But I can, in good conscience, take up your motion, second your motion to table it, because I think it's a disservice to the people in the room tonight.
May I respond?
Please.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for their input. Greatly appreciate it. And the intent of my motion is to take the letters that we received, in addition to all of the input, under consideration. Number one, it would be a direct violation of the open meeting law to vote on something that has not been placed on the agenda. And Mr. Pacheco, I'm not going to be bullied by you or anyone else to do what I think is in violation of the open meeting law. Many people don't read the newspapers or read Facebook and may not know that this discussion was even taking place. So before a vote should be taken, it should be properly advertised on the agenda. In addition to that, Mrs. Smith has put many hours into this project. She was the liaison from this committee to the North School, and to vote on this, to actually even have a debate on this without her being present through no fault of her own, is also grossly unfair. I have no intention of voting to evict the NOAA group on January 1st. That's why I'm tabling this. I made a motion to table this so we take no action at this point until we have further consideration of all aspects of this. I would also, but you're not going to second anything, obviously, but I would also like to make a motion that we invite our North School Committee to come and give a presentation here so that it will be televised and everyone can know the reason, everything they've accomplished. They haven't received any thanks for. They've done a lot of work restoring that building, renovating that building, and I think we need to thank them officially and not throw aspersions their way. Thank them for their efforts and find out their reasoning for this. I think we all want what's best for the town of Raynham. I don't think any of us disagree on that. Let's work together and find a solution. I think, Linda, you've very eloquently pointed out that we have a need for animal services in this town that's not being met. And taking our dogs to Lakeville is not a great solution either. I'm not advocating $1 million project, but let's see what we can do to work something out. It might and nobody's saying anything against NOAA is a wonderful organization, and I thank you and everybody that's involved in that. Everyone knows no one is more supportive of volunteer efforts than I am. I spent most of my life as a professional volunteer. And I certainly appreciate that. Let's work together and find a solution that benefits everybody. That's why I'm making a motion to take all of this under advisement until we can hear all aspects of this and work something out that's going to benefit everybody. and I repeat my motion to take this under advisement.
I'll second it then, Ms. Riley, for discussion. I just want to say I take great exception to your comment that I'm bullying you. Just because we have a difference of opinion doesn't mean it's bullying. You have a difference of opinion, and I don't imply that you're bullying me, and I thought that was highly unprofessional and disrespectful.
I think it's the tone in which you addressed me, Mr. Pacheco, and you've done it on numerous occasions, trying to twist the words, not necessarily right now, but in previous meetings, and I'm not going to take it.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. So I will second your motion then. Is the motion, Ms. Riley, to have it on for next week?
At a time when all members can be forward and can be in attendance, all 3 members of this board, we're only 3 members, and at a time when the North School Study Committee can come to give us an official presentation, either before or at that time. So I'm not going to set a specific date on it.
Okay, so would you meet me halfway and set some type of a date so the people in the audience have that courtesy?
I think we can publicize that. We can certainly notify the people here when we set that date, but I don't want to say next week if Mrs. Smith is not going to be able to be with us or the North School Committee is not going to be able to be with us. I think there's no problem that we will certainly advertise it, and we can, if people want to give us their names and phone numbers, I'll personally call each one of you. So I stand by my motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
I just don't understand.
Can you-
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm not, I guess I'm not smart enough to get this, and so help me out here. I don't get this. Is there in place, and I'm asking the question seriously, is there in place a decision to kick these people out on January 1? Is that on the table? I don't understand, Ms. Riley. Tell me.
No, we received a letter from the North School Committee asking us to consider that. This board has made no motion relative to that.
So that's the North School Committee has presented that to the board.
This evening, and I did not know about it before this evening.
Yep. So that, the board has yet to act on that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so.
And I have no intention of acting on it at this point.
Yeah. Well, okay, I think I understand it. So it's in play. The school committee, the North School Committee's decision is in play. In other words, they have put forth a motion to take Noah out of the school. That's what, and so now that's going to be presented to the board.
Correct.
At some point.
Yes.
But you see, the thing that's a little confusing, and I understand you, thank you for that. The thing that's a little confusing, if that is going to be taken up by the board next week or the week after, however this transpires, that's just keeps moving up and up and up against the deadline. So, I mean, theoretically, and I'm not saying you're saying, I'm just saying, if the board meets to vote on this in 2 weeks, that's like 3 days ahead of January 1. I mean, unless the school committee has another vote and says, oh, wait a minute, we're our back's against the wall, we're 3 days away from January 1, we're going to have another meeting. It's all very, do you know what I mean? It's kind of iffy. It is. It's just like, it's hard to get your arms around it. And I'm not being critical. I'm just saying, just as a person in the room, maybe I'm the only one. I hope I'm the only one. Well, I don't hope I'm the only one that doesn't understand it. I hope a lot of people don't understand it. But it's hard to get your arms around this. Do you know what I mean? This committee, I think you made a great suggestion, Mr. Chairman, which is, it would be helpful if the committee met on televised like all the other groups do. It would really be good because we'd at least have advance notice. And certainly it's a good idea to have him here as well, Ms. Riley. I don't. But I think as an ongoing thing, to televise them would be a very, very good idea, just to get a step in front of this,
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Shivo. All right.
I have another point too, though.
Sure.
Sorry. And I'm also confused. I don't usually attend meetings. I don't understand how the North School Committee can all of a sudden say this is what we want, and something that's already been decided the town gets blindsided. And with all due respect, Ms. Riley, the people who want to change what was already agreed upon are here. The North School Committee was well aware of bringing this up tonight. Everybody from the North School Committee that wanted it addressed this evening had the opportunity to be here. The people who aren't here are members of the community who would be standing up for Noah, and I think the majority in this room was well represented. So to me, if the North School Committee wanted to change something that was already voted on, they should have been here and I never heard a reason. What has changed? On what grounds are they asking for them to be evicted? And in the interim, if this is being tabled, can it be tabled until a new venue is found that's appropriate for everyone? And if it's a venue that's at the Borden facility, who's going to pay for that if it needs to be renovated? There must be a place currently in the town that we can have an adoption event once or twice a month so that we don't have a feral cat population. This seems a little blown out of proportion to me, and if we're going to be waiting to meet on it again, there should be action taken to find a place in the interim. But I don't know why it's not being agreed upon. It was already agreed upon. The people who want it changed had opportunity to be here. That's just my thought.
Thank you. So there was a motion on the table, and I seconded the motion. Any last discussion?
No, just that I think, with all due respect, the North School Study Committee has put many, many hours into studying the best use for that facility. And also just mention, too, that we do have, ongoing, they haven't started meeting yet, I mentioned the government survey, town survey, and I hope everybody responds to that. We have a government study committee that's going to begin meeting in January, and one of their charges is to consider the current and future needs of the town. And obviously, animal control facility, services, location, it can definitely be part of that. I think making a hasty decision on anything is very unwise. And I will not make a decision until I have considered all of the facts. And again, try to find something that works for everybody. Thank you, Mr. Pacheco.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
if I may.
Please.
Mrs. Smith was unable to make it tonight, but she has authorized me to make a short statement on her behalf, and she has referred this to town council, and so any further correspondence, if people wish to submit a letter, please send it to me at the Selectmen's office, and I'll make sure it gets forwarded to the town council.
Thank you, Dave. All right. Any press here tonight? Seeing none. Any emergency business, Ms. Riley?
No, I have nothing else.
I will
Thank you.
entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.